Hello, this is Rich Artichoker with Black Wolf Martial Arts, and I'd like to welcome you back again. I want to apologize first of all because it's been far too long since we've updated the site with new video content, and I will apologize for that. As you can see behind me here, we have a new area. One of the reasons why there's been such a gap between our last video and this video is because I sold my home and I moved into a small town pretty close to the border of northeast Iowa, and so that is why we have a Iowa Hawkeye symbol on our wall. We rented a home, and the guy who was renting it before us obviously was an Iowa Hawkeyes fan, and I haven't had time to repaint the wall yet. But the nice thing about this new place is that now I have a basement, and I've got a really nice area that we'll be using for our studio to provide you with the video content. So with that being said, welcome back to Black Wolf Martial Arts, and we're going to continue our series of basic martial arts instruction and eclectic martial arts concepts from all over the Southeast Asian portion of the world. Today we're going to start talking about eskrima, use of the eskrima stick and the Filipino martial arts. There's still a lot more material to be covered in our footwork, mobility, and body angling material, but we've gotten to the point where I'd really like to have further videos be two-person videos, so you can kind of see that interplay, that energy, that when you're talking about footwork and mobility, how it actually works when you're pursuing somebody or when you're trying to counter somebody. I'd really like you to see that, and it's hard to show that just one person. So future videos that we're going to be having about that material are going to include two-person demonstrations. So, and I really want us to start getting involved in the striking portion of our material. And one of the great things about the Filipino martial arts and practicing with the eskrima stick is that it really teaches good body mechanics, good body angling, good power, use of the body and the core for developing power. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started with that, okay? And so if you have got an eskrima stick handy, great. If you don't, for practice purposes, you can always go down to your local hardware store and pick yourself up a good dowel, a good hardwood dowel. You can get a hardwood dowel for around $1.50, $2 at a hardware store. And I would cut it down to where it's about anywhere from 28 to 30 inches in length. That's a good length for what we're going to do. So, as I was saying, some Filipino systems will use short batons, some will use longer batons. I tend to prefer a baton that's around 26 to 28 inches in length, just because we'll be covering not only the long range or largo mano ranges, but also the intermediate ranges and the short ranges, which, with a big long stick, it would be a little more difficult to manipulate the stick in short range. So I like a medium-sized stick. It allows you to kind of move in and out of your different ranges with relative ease. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the first two striking angles. And the reason why I like to focus on these first two angles first is because they're the most easy to teach. When you see a child pick up a stick and play sword fighting with it, you see that they automatically begin to just do this kind of a movement where they'll do this kind of downward diagonal figure 8 pattern. It just comes naturally when you pick up a stick. It just comes. And right now, if you can do this, if you can follow this, you are right now doing your number 1 angle and your number 2 angle. Number 1, number 2. And if you just combine those two strikes into a figure 8 pattern, now you have a really common and a really useful striking drill that you can use practice your eskrima, okay? So number 1, number 2 angle. Number 1 angle, number 2 angle. Number 1 angle, number 2 angle. Let's try a different camera angle. Number 1, and number 2. Number 1, number 2. Number 1, number 2. Number 1, number 2. Now, when I do my number 1 angle, and then I come back to my number 2, some of you might notice that I'll actually hit my striking hand, my weapon hand, with my other hand. And the reason I do this is because it's a reference point for me. What I found when I first started training was that if I would bring my hand around too close to my body, I'd end up hitting myself in the elbow. And not a fun thing to do. So the other hand kind of gives me a reference point so I know where I'm at on this side of the body, so I'm not striking myself. And that's why I do that. So here's your number 1 and your number 2 angle. And so what we're going to do to make that a little more Kali, a little more Filipino in nature, is we're going to start adding the body mechanics. So as that stick, let's start in this position. This is the number 1, the start for the number 1 striking angle, the starting position. And this position is so common and so primal that the Dog Brothers refer to this position as the caveman. And if you go and do a little bit of research on YouTube, just look up some YouTube videos on different types of fights, look at any kind of video material you can see where anybody is wielding a weapon, you'll see that this position right here is the most common position people will take. They'll do this position over and over and over again, when they're striking, when the people are really striking and they're striking to do damage, when they're striking to hurt somebody. You'll see this over and over again, this kind of an attack, just this furious onslaught of these number 1 angles. You'll see that. And so that's the reason why the Dog Brothers call this the caveman position, or the caveman angle, number 1, because it's such a primal thing. And when people are angry and they're emotionally involved in trying to hit you and strike you, this is the most common angle you're going to end up seeing. Now, as we drive this angle downward from our right shoulder, we're going to let gravity begin to take that. We're going to use gravity to our advantage. We're going to let gravity begin to take that, and as we do, we're going to turn our shoulders and our hips along the line of the weapon's arc. Turning our shoulders and hips along that line, allowing us to use our whole body, our whole core, to pull the weapon down through. Okay? So this is what using proper power, proper mechanics looks like. Okay? So as we bring that stick around, the next most logical thing to do is to come back down in a number 2 angle. And this is where we can use that other hand. Now I've got the reference point of having this other hand here supporting my striking hand. I can use that other hand to kind of do what's called a supported strike. We can also go ahead and use this like you might see a young child doing when they're playing sword fighting. We can create kind of a figure 8 and twirling effect with a stick, which is also very common. It can be very useful. All you got to do is just start adding your twirling and your other motions, and now you've got a pretty formidable looking weapon which is being wielded out in front of you. Okay, so practice that, work on that, get some good power, some good mechanics going with your stick striking, and we'll be back in our next video to practice the next thing.